Super Bowl 59 is mere hours away, and I'm giving my last minute prediction and thoughts on the big game before it happens. Let's talk about it. This is going on the podcast platform. If you're listening over there on any Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever the case is, find us on YouTube at Lots of Thoughts Sports or on any social at Lots of Thoughts Sports, Instagram, TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe. The Chiefs are going for the three-peat against the Philadelphia Eagles. And although Philadelphia wasn't the one seed, I feel in my gut that they're probably the best team in the NFC. Now, Detroit had a great season, but at the end of the day, I think they were too limited by injuries and, frankly, by Jared Goff in big moments that at the end of the day, I think Philly has what it needs to succeed. That being said, although I think they're the best team in the NFC, I think that Kansas City is clearly the best team in the NFL. And if they play their game, they're going to be tough to beat. I mean, the classic quarterback stat of Patrick Mahomes has only lost to two quarterbacks in the playoffs in his career, right? Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow, who's had one overtime victory against Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game to end up going, or was the divisional round? I can't remember, but to end up going to the Super Bowl and losing to the Rams. Outside of that one overtime game, the only quarterback Patrick Mahomes has lost to in the playoffs is the greatest of all time. And if he gets four rings, there's going to be a lot of conversation about him already being on track to be the greatest, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So that's an easy cop out, I think, to say it's hard to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and I don't think that Jalen Hurts is a good enough caliber quarterback to necessarily do that. If it comes down to Hurts versus Mahomes, Mahomes is going to win 10 times out of 10. However, the team around the quarterbacks is drastically leaning in the favor of Philadelphia, in my opinion. I think the running backs are better in Philly. I think Saquon by himself is better than any combination of the Chiefs running backs, although Pacheco was very good before he got hurt this season. Um, I think obviously Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are better than any Chiefs wide receivers. Let's throw Travis Kelce in there. I'd take AJ Brown over Travis Kelce right now, and I'd take Devontae Smith over DeAndre Hopkins or Xavier Worthy or whoever you say their second receiver is, Noah Brown. The offensive line certainly goes in the favor of the Eagles. What a find Mekhi Becton has been for them. I mean, their tackles are talented. Cam Jurgens came in for, Jason Kelce after he retired. But Mekhi Becton really solidified that line on the right guard position. That big body that really opens up a lot of holes for Saquon. And then the defense, I think, although they're fairly even, I'd take the Eagles' defensive line over the Chiefs. The Eagles' defensive backfield over the Chiefs. I mean, talk about additions in the offseason. That draft of getting Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell out of the draft. I loved Quinyon Mitchell coming into the draft. You can look back on this YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube and find my mock drafts. And early, like I want to say it was toward the end of the season, I had Quinyon Mitchell being a first round pick when he was supposed to be a second or a third coming out of Toledo, and he just kept rising in the offseason in the Senior Bowl or whatever. Was it Senior Bowl or East West Shrine Bowl? I can't remember which one it was. That he played incredibly well and he kept rising and he ended up being a top 20 or so pick. Um, Big fan of his, and he's been showing out this year. Um, and the linebacker cores, although the Eagles coming into the season necessarily wasn't seen as a strength. Zach Bond's been playing out of his mind. And so outside of coaching and quarterback, which coaching I think is a distinct advantage for the Chiefs. Andy Reid might be one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Nick Sirianni, I'm not sure is a very good coach. Maybe not even a good coach. I know that's maybe a hot take, but um, I think what it's going to come down to is the performance of Saquon Barkley and how long the Eagles let the Chiefs stay in the game. Similar to Brady, when he was playing, similar to Rodgers in his prime, not the current Jets years, or even the recent Packers years. I think Mahomes, with a chance to win the game in a limited amount of time, cannot be beaten. We saw it when the Bills, when they had the lead against the Chiefs not too long ago, and Patrick Mahomes drove with 13 seconds left to tie the game and send it to overtime, and the Bills never got the ball back. What was that, a couple years ago in the AFC Championship game? You see it time and time again in the Super Bowl last year, winning the game, at the end with the touchdown pass to Mecole Hardman against the San Francisco 49ers. If Patrick Mahomes has a chance to win it, he's going to win it. And so I think if the Eagles have a shot they're going to have to get out to an early lead and really, really keep it. And I'm talking about have a 10-point lead with 3 minutes left. Like they need to keep the lead pretty much the entirety of the game. Now, I think that's certainly possible. I think the Eagles' offense is very talented, and Saquon Barkley is going to have a huge game. And I don't doubt that he can. I think because of his performance in New York, not that he did poorly, but the Giants never really got off the ground. Their offensive line was always horrible. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. Really, outside of his rookie year, where he was stupendous still with Eli, Saquon Barkley was kind of limited by the team around him. And so now, being in Philadelphia with a really, really good offensive line and really, really good weapons alongside of him, which he didn't ever had in New York outside of Odell Beckham while he was still there, and no one else. I mean, Malik Neighbors is good, but Saquon left before Neighbors came. So um, Saquon Barkley, I think, has really showed the caliber of running back he is to the national stage in Philadelphia this year. Obviously rushing for 2,000 yards, and he would have set the rushing record if he had played in Week 18. And so if he has a big game, I'm talking 150 and two. 150 yards and two touchdowns on 20 something carries, I think they have a real shot because that really opens up the passing game. With the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo, their defensive coordinator, really loves disguising blitzes, and you never know who's coming at the quarterback. And you saw that at the end of the Bills game, right? The rush came, you never know who was coming or what was coming, and Josh Allen had to throw it away. And maybe Dalton Kincaid should have caught it. That's neither here nor there, but he rushed the throw, and it wasn't as good as it could have been. And a lot of that is limited if you have a really dynamic rushing attack and you have an option out of the backfield that can catch the ball in an emergency situation. Um, if Jalen Hurts is getting blitzed and pressured in that offensive line, which I think is going to do well, but can't stand up to the Chris Jones and the Nick Karlaftis. I don't remember. Is that his first name? Karlaftis? George Karlaftis? I don't know. You know who I'm talking about. Um, if they can't stand up to the pass rush, that outlet to Saquon Barkley is going to be huge. And Saquon having a big game, I think, is going to be the key. And as they are limiting the amount of times they're going to blitz Kansas City, the Eagles are going to be able to develop more of that passing game with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and whoever else wants to play in that role, Jahan Dotson or whoever. Um, Jalen Hurts is going to need to have a good game as well, but the stats matter a whole lot less for him, in my opinion. Saquon Barkley needs to get to around 150 yards and at least one touchdown, probably two, for them to have a chance. I don't think Jalen Hurts needs to hit 303 or whatever. I think he needs to play fairly mistake. No, I think he needs to play mistake free and make the throws when they're needed. He doesn't have to have a huge game. He doesn't have to have a bunch of deep bombs, but he has to get the ball to AJ Brown when AJ Brown has a mismatch. He has to get the ball out to Saquon when he's being pressured. He has to hit Dallas Goedert when he's open in the middle of the zone. I think that's going to be the key for success. Now, on the other side, Kansas City, it'd be very easy for me to say, just don't let Saquon go off, but that's a difficult proposition. Certainly, the rushing defense is going to need to step up, and I mean, Saquon's a top running back in the league, right? I don't know. Christian McCaffrey was hurt this year, but I think I'd still take him number one. If I had to draft just like one season performances. Saquon Barkley's right there amongst the Derrick Henrys and company. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL. So limiting him is going to be tough, but that's going to be a big part of it. And their weapons are going to need to be used well. I know Andy Reid's an elite offensive mind, but he really needs to show that. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be involved early. His speed off the edge is something that I think they've really toyed with and could really use in a pivotal situation. I wouldn't be surprised if they do some kind of gimmick packages with Travis Kelce or whoever else trying to throw a touchdown to Xavier Worthy. DeAndre Hopkins maybe trying to throw a touchdown to Xavier Worthy. But I think his speed's going to be in a big impact, and Travis Kelce has to play like the best tight end in the league. If they do that, I think they'll have a real shot. Um, for them, limiting mistakes, I think, is a lot less of a concern just because they don't seem to make them nearly as much as many teams in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has been very secure with the ball, even though his season was not one of his best in terms of accolades and touchdowns and yardage and such, MVP consideration. He didn't turn over the ball a whole lot, and I think that's going to be key, certainly. The running backs can't put the ball on the ground. I will say that. Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, got to keep the ball secure. but I don't think their performance has to be stupendous. Like I said, if the Chiefs are in the game late, I think they're going to win. Um, and so the Chiefs got to keep it close coming down to the wire, and I think they have a good shot. So if you have to ask me, I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'll say 30 to 23. I think it ends up being a close game, but at the end of the day, I trust Patrick Mahomes more than I trust anyone on the Eagles, even their best players, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown. I don't know who you want to say. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and it's hard to doubt him, man. It really is. It's kind of crazy to think about how if he does win this, he'll have 4 rings by the time he's 30. And I always say championships aren't linear, so I think people who are jumping to say that he's going to pass Brady are getting ahead of themselves, right? Brady had early Super Bowls in his career, and then he spent what about 10 years before between the middle there in his 30s, and he really didn't do a whole lot. He lost 2 Super Bowls to the Giants. He struggled. Um, and then what was it? Atlanta was the first one back to the Super Bowl, and then he went on a little run there. Um, I think Mahomes having 4 rings by the time he's 30 is already putting him on the, top 5 or so quarterbacks in NFL history. And if he keeps winning on this pace, which is hard to do, he's going to be in that conversation for the greatest of all time. I think his arm talent's elite, and in comparison to Brady, I think Brady's arm talent really focused on accuracy. Mahomes has a significantly stronger arm. I know he's significantly more athletic and can make plays that Brady couldn't. I think that's a conversation to have if they win the Super Bowl and what the next few seasons look like. So I'm not going to jump the gun there, but nonetheless, I'm taking the Chiefs to win the game. But would not be shocked if Philly wins. Like I said, I think Philly could get out to an early lead. I think they could end up with a push, no, tush push touchdown on the first drive, and really step on the throats of Kansas City by getting a touchdown on the second. But who knows? We'll see how it goes. I'm not betting either way. I'm not a gambling man, but I'm not secure enough in my opinion to bet. But I am taking Kansas City to win. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who do you think's going to win? What color do you think the Gatorade's going to be? By the way, I'm pushing hard yellow. I don't know. I get the feeling it's going to be that lemon lime Gatorade. Just my gut feeling. What other prop bets do they do? Kendrick Lamar halftime show. Excited for that. Length of the national anthem. I'm not betting on that. But nonetheless, let me know what you think about all this Super Bowl fodder in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win? What do you think it means for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid's legacies? Because that's what everyone talks about in the sports world. But I appreciate the watch. Subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube. Appreciate the support. Peace out.